Hi everyone, my name is Genevieve Estrana Jackson and my matrix number is 69942. So today I will share to you guys the introduction of the country that we have chosen, which is Algeria. We chose this country because it has a number of valuable information to give. Furthermore, this country is not well known among the general public, and it will be interesting to learn a little bit about it. So, the current population of Algeria is 40, around 45 million as of Friday, April 22, 2022. Algeria's economy is dominated by petroleum and natural gas exports, which account for nearly one-third of the country's. The GDP in Algeria was worth 145.16 billion US dollars in 2020. Algeria is one of the world's top countries in terms of overall gas reserve and gas exports. Algerian law protects worker right to organize despite the fact that there is only one national trade union. And next, the government guarantees a minimum wage and the work week is 40 hours long and runs from Saturday to Wednesday, as it does in many Muslim nations. Algeria's most important employment areas are public administration, agriculture, and transportation. Unemployment, on the other hand, is alarmingly high in Algeria, with roughly one-third of the working age population unemployed. The sale of petroleum and natural gas is by far the government's most lucrative source of revenue.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Zubaida binti Nafsu, metric number 71664. I will represent the trade union in Algeria. The General Union of Algerian Workers, known as UGTA, is in charge of the country's trade union. The authority of collective bargaining was abolished in 1990 when labor regulations were enacted. Algeria ratified Convention number 87 on freedom of association and protection of the right to organize 1948 in 1962 and Convention number 98 on the right to organize and collective bargaining 1949 in 1962. Algerian trade union. The right to freedom of association is enshrined in the constitution and regulated by a labor code. No guarantee of rights. In order to establish a union, they are require permission or approval by the authorities. Establishment of organization in Algeria. The minimum number of members required for the establishment is 20% of workers in an enterprise. Restrictions on worker rights is the workers must from the same occupation, industry or sector. Restriction on the right to elect is at age 21 at the day of his election. Right to freely organize is the union are prohibited from associating with political parties. Workers who are prohibited from joining a union is non-national or migrant workers, which means only Algerian by birth and Algerian by nationality can join a union. Right to collective bargaining. The right to collective bargaining is recognized by law but strictly regulated. Previous authorization or approval by authorities required to bargain. The union must provide evidence of the representative in order to at the beginning of each calendar year. Minimum number of members required to bargaining is at least 20% of the total number of employees within its scope and at least 20% of any workers' committee established in an employee's workplace. A trade union must at the beginning of the relevant calendar year. Barriers to the recognition of collective bargaining agents is there are 14 elements in exclusion of certain matters from the scope of bargaining in Algeria. For example, wages, hour, labor standard, occupational classification, base salary, seniority, bonus link, term of performance, reimbursement, probation, period of actual work, special absence, conciliation, minimum service, the right to organize, duration of the agreement. And limitation of or ban on collective bargaining is armed forces. A person who are employed in the defense and national security forces are excluded from bargaining. The public servant also and civil servants who are managerial and supervisory staff only are excluded from bargaining. Right to strike is enshrined in the Constitution, regulated by a labor code, recognized in labor law, but strictly regulated. Barriers to lawful strike action is the right to strike only arises where a dispute persists after the conciliation and mediation procedure set out. Striking requires a secret ballot of the whole workforce. The decision of the strike must be approved by a majority at workers' general meeting. Ban or limitation on certain types of strike, for example, industrial dispute, economic and social issues, political sympathy, and solidarity reason. Restriction with respect to type of strike action is, for example, pickets, wildcat, working to rule, sit down, and go slow. Limitation or ban on strike in certain sectors, discretionary determination or excessively long lists or essential services in which the right to strike is prohibited or severely restricted. Discretionary determination or excessively long list of service of public utility in which a minimum operational service can be imposed in the event of strike. Unreasonable or discretionary. For example, without negotiation with social partners or absent in the independent authority in the event of disagreement.
Assalamualaikum and hi to Doctor and my fellow friends. I am Alicia binti Sufyan, 68356. Today I'm going to present employment law in Algeria. I'm going to focus employment agreement. There is two types of employment contracts are permitted in Algeria, such as limited terms contracts and unlimited term contracts. And unlimited term contracts may be either in writing or verbal, and a contract will be deemed to be concluded for unlimited duration unless otherwise agreed by the parties in writing. Limited term contracts must expressly state the duration of the contract and is only permitted in the following circumstances. First, when the employee is recruited for the performance of an agreement relating to the achievement of the project or services that are not ongoing. Second, when the employee replaces a job holder who is temporarily absent and whose job is to be preserved by the employer. Third, when the employee is to perform periodic and discontinuous work. Fourth is when the supplementary lot of work or seasonal reasons make it necessary. And lastly, where the employments relate to a fixed term work or when such work are temporary by nature. Is probationary period and training. An employee may be employed on probation for up to 6 months, although highly qualified individuals may be subjected to a probationary period for up to 12 months. The permitted duration of the probationary work is also specified for each category of employee through collective bargaining agreements. During the probationary period, both of the employer and employee may terminate the employment contracts with immediate effect without notice or compensation. I'm going to present employments of domestics and foreign workers. The end-to-end process includes government processing times, labor market test requirements, legalizations, and procurement of supporting documents such as police clearances, academic certificates, medical application, preparation and submission of the application through the various authorities. Hence, the lead time provides a more accurate reflection of country immigration process, timelines, and complexity. In Algeria, the end-to-end immigration process may last from 3 to 5 months depending on many factors. Limitations. Given the size of the country and distance between Algeria major cities, creating an online process with immigration centers for each region would require substantial government investment, including hiring and training workers on immigration regulations, standardizing immigration rules, and supporting new logistical costs. Market test requirements. PMA is the name given to a quota system which determines the ratio of local to foreign hires for a particular company in a particular project. This quota system is used to control the number of foreign hires. There is no fixed ratio required for the quota system as it varies depending on the assessment of the Labor Ministry and the local labor authorities.
Next, I will present about the employment sector and its determinants of the employment patterns. Algeria's economy is mostly reliant on earnings from the oil and gas industry. Since the 1980s, the economy has been marked by the financial instability. This is because of numerous financial policies. The number of economically active persons in the country also has increased because of the participation of the employers in economic sector. Moreover, the services industry has employed over 60% of the country's workforce, according to Statista Research Development in 2021. In 2019, the services industry employed the majority of Algeria's workforce. Algeria's employment sector mostly consists of male workers. This makes the male workers are more employed than the female. With unemployment rates that are twice as high, in 2011, the unemployment rate for men increased slightly from 8.1% to 8.4%, while the rate of women declined nearly 2% from 19.1% to 17.2%. This is how the government agencies of Algeria handle the domestic workers and the foreign workers. In Algeria, wage developments are not tracked in a systematic or regular manner. In 2012, the most recent minimum wage guarantee was established. Subsidies from the ministry have indirectly strengthened the wage system by increasing the purchasing power of citizen incomes. Other than that, the government plans to establish 50 new industrial zones to face certain obstacles. And lastly, the Council of Ministers raised financing to expand access to the youth job program.
Next, we will look into the Employment Act and related laws and regulations in Algeria. Firstly, we look into the wage system in Algeria. All employees, regardless of sectors, are guaranteed a national minimum wage. No workers are contracted to receive wages lower than the guaranteed minimum wage set by the government, even if it is consented to by its owner. The current minimum wage in Algeria was implemented in June 2020 and stands at 20,000 Algerian dinar per month. Next, we will look into the employment of women in Algeria. The labor law of Algeria does provide certain benefits and exemptions for female workers. The labor law is against the discrimination towards female workers by implementing equal pay for equal work as men. Besides that, special protections are given to women in Algeria when it comes to working hours and maternity benefits. The next issue is about women and night work in Algeria. Female workers are prohibited from working at night, regardless of age and industrial undertaking. Female workers are given prohibition for an 8-hour period between 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. The prohibition against night work may get suspended only if labor legislation permits night work schedules for women to be introduced in specific establishment if this is called for by special economic, social, or similar circumstances. Now we will look into the women participation in the oil and gas industry. Women's participation in the oil and gas, even though oil and gas sector is the backbone of Algeria's economy. There are two possibilities for this to happen. The first is women are reluctant to work in oil and gas industry because they think it is a man's job, or there might be discrimination towards women in the work as men are highly prioritized due to physical attributes. Gender equality also has been a concern as female employees earn less than men in oil and gas sector. Therefore, discrimination towards women do exist in Algerian labor force. Next, we will look into working hours and leave. Employees in Algeria will have 5-day work or 6-day work depending on the industry undertaking. Therefore, employees should be permitted at least one rest day in a week, and the maximum working hours in Algeria is 8 hours per day, and the legal working hours is per week is 40 hours. As for the overtime, despite permitted normal working hours of 8 per day, employees can still work up to 12 hours per day, but overtime hours should not go beyond 8 hours per week. Employees are entitled to receive overtime pay for every additional hour spent at work. As for the public holidays, labor law permits 10 public holidays per year for the whole country of Algeria. The labor law of Algeria in the form of sick leave. During the first 15 days of illness, employees would earn a part of their salary as commission. Besides, employees are entitled to 30 days of paid yearly leave. Now, we will look into the Minimum Retirement Age and Act. According to the retirement law in Algeria, the minimum retirement age is set at 60 years old for men and 55 years old for women. To be eligible for full pension, the employees must work for at least 15 years and above. However, those who wishes to enjoy their early retirement and its benefits must work for 20 years. By doing so, they could choose to retire at the age of 50. Now, we will look into children and young labor. In Algeria, the legal minimum age for work is 16. Despite the regulations, around 6.7% of children aged 5 to 14 are currently working in Algeria. This amounts to around 413,000 working children in population. Poverty is one of the factors for the high numbers of child labor in Algeria. Employers prefer to hire children into working in agriculture and industrial sector due to low wages demand. Therefore, many children lost their right to get free education at the age of 6 to 16 in Algeria. Now, we will look into the worst forms of child labor in Algeria. The children are exploited in the worst form of child labor through the informal economic activities in Algeria. The informal are such as commercial sexual exploitation, drug trafficking, forced begging and street vending, and forced domestic work. Exploitation against children in Algeria is resulted from the human trafficking activity. Human trafficking is a serious issue in Algeria, and it is strictly handled by the Ministry of Justice, but the issue remains uncontrollable.
What are the differences between Algeria and Malaysia? This current, the current Algerian minimum wage is DZD 2000 per month, and that is around 600 ringgit in Malaysia. This current minimum wage was established in June 2020 following years of demand from Algeria, unions, and employees for the government to raise the minimum wage. In Malaysia, however, the increase of the minimum wage to 1,500 ringgit will be effective as of 1 May 2022. For employers with less than 5 employees, there is a temporary exemption until 31st December 2022. The legal working hours per week in Algerian labor force is 40 hours. This is based on 5 workdays in a week, with Friday and Saturday chooses to be the weekend. If employees work beyond the 40 hours, they should be paid overtime for each additional hour. In Malaysia, the rules and regulations for working hour is every 5 consecutive hours followed by a rest period not less than 30 minutes. A maximum of 8 hours work in one day based on a 6-day working week, or maximum 9 hours in one day based on a 5-day working week. And lastly, according to the retirement law in Algeria, the minimum retirement age is set at 60 years old for men and 55 years old for women. This act was under place for the last 5 years. The employees will receive retirement pension as benefit after working for a certain period and reaching the respective age of 60 and 55 years old. To be eligible for full pensions, the employees must work for at least 15 years and above. Besides that, in Malaysia's retirement age for public sector employees was raised to 58 in 2008 and 60 from 2012 onwards. So that is all from me. Thank you very much.